A magnitude 5.3 earthquake shakes a famous holiday region in Spain, and people in the Mediterranean are very afraid now because this is in an area that has produced a devastating earthquake in the past already. A tsunami warning was issued. A roof of an airport has collapsed. So a lot to cover in this video, guys. The earthquake had already 15 to 20 aftershocks, and the tremor was clearly felt in more than 50 towns within a radius of roughly 250 miles, 400 kilometers from the epicenter, and it also hit the Costa del Sol. This is tourist heaven right now. Everything's full of tourists, popular tourist destination. Many witnesses described it as very scary and very strong, and the quake was also felt in Morocco. That's basically the opposite coast of the Mediterranean. And this is an area that can produce very dangerous tsunamis and has in the past. They classify this earthquake as purely tectonic, and the culprit is most likely the Carbonera's fault system. A transform fault, left lateral, that belongs to the Batic shear zone. And this fault was responsible for a devastating quake in 1522 with an estimated magnitude of 6.8 or 7.0 in that range, has reduced to the city of Almeria that has been affected today by this earthquake to rubble, and has severely affected nearby towns and other towns in the whole region. Over 1,000 people were lost, but remember, this was 1522. Today, this would be way more devastating with way more densely populated areas in the path of a destructive earthquake, should this be a precursor to a bigger one. So right now, there's great concern that the current tremor could be a foreshock of an even stronger earthquake. And this 5.3 magnitude earthquake hit Spain in a not at a good timing, because it was just devastated just hours before by flash flooding and heavy rain, and then boof, the earthquake hits. So especially it hit southern Spain, the tourist hotspots, Costa del Sol, Alicante, early today. Spain's National Geographic Institute has recorded the quake of Cabo de Gata on the Almeria coast at 7:13 in the morning. It was shaking people out of bed. Cabo de Gata is the largest coastal area in the Andalusian region. And the quake was determined to be quite strong on the scale. We have over 20 aftershocks so far. The largest that's reported so far is measuring 3.4, and most of them were occurring just 5 minutes after the main quake. Main quake is in the water roughly 19 miles off the coast with a depth of roughly 2 miles below the sea level, and it was felt in hundreds of towns and villages across Andalusia and the country's Levante region. And in Almeria, an airport roof partially collapsed after the quake rattled hundreds of towns. Also, a car showroom was damaged by the earthquake. You see the pictures here. The roof insulation or whatever that is seems to be coming down, and an airport worker has told the local media, "We heard some noises one after the other, and then a loud bang and a great cloud of dust appeared." They say it was a real scare for us. There were airport workers having their first coffee of the day, but luckily no one was injured. Among the hardest hit areas, this is what the local news are reporting, is Granada, Malaga, and Jan, along with Murcia, Alicante, and Albacete in the east. So all these tourist areas that are crowded, the hotels along the beaches, the ports full of super yachts, this is the area. And in Almeria, a Toyota car dealer's showroom was damaged. The ceiling caved. People were getting alerts on their phones that an earthquake just happened. Initially, they said 5.1. So now there's reports anything between 5.2 and 5.4. People in Granada and Almeria received this emergency alert. Witnesses say there was an incredible roar when the blast hit. The witness said, I was sleeping and the whole house shook for a few seconds. There was an incredible roar. It woke up my entire family and the neighbors in the apartment complex. And here you see this on Google Maps. When you scroll over, these are the areas that are hit the most. This is basically the tourist hotspot, all the tourist towns along that coastline there. I have been there. It's beautiful, very, very hot, very dry. One hotel owner said the whole hotel was shaking. In Roquetas del Mar, it was very noticeable and it lasted a few seconds. That's what many people are reporting. And they said the whole hotel room was shaking. One man said, just felt the tremors of an earthquake off the coast of Almeria. It woke me up, bad shaking, and we are 100 kilometers away from the epicenter, roughly 70 miles or something. And they said, scary, exclamation mark. And you can imagine the emergency services were receiving a lot of calls from people that were really, really scared. And getting back to the airport, this is the fourth most important airport in Andalusia because, yeah, all the tourists are coming in and out through that airport. And now it's been damaged. It's only the sections of the roof above the cafeteria, it seems, that have collapsed, so the airport should be able to continue to run. Minutes after the quake, they issued the tsunami alert. Has now been thankfully deactivated for now, unless we see another big quake. More witnesses said, I felt the bed move. Everyone was screaming. I started to hear the windows and it felt like as if the bed was moving, says another one. Another one says, I was so asleep, I wasn't really aware of what was happening. I thought it was the wind that was rattling my windows. But when I saw everyone else screaming, saying it was an earthquake, gosh, we're still scared to death. Tourists report the ceilings of their hotel rooms were swinging. One resident in Murcia said, I was in bed. It woke me up actually because the bed was moving back and forth. The light on the ceiling was swinging and my wardrobe doors were opening and closing. That sounds scary. And he said also probably lasted about 10 seconds. And one traveler in Torres said, we have never experienced this before while we were on holiday. The shaking woke us up and we just thought, what the hell was that? And the locals are especially scared because they are reminded of the devastating 2011 Lorca earthquake. 9 people were lost, 300 people were injured, and 1,800 homes collapsed. So it is reported that there's nothing else that locals are talking about right now. The people are nervous. Fortunately, nothing has collapsed so far. But people say when things like this happen, memories always come flooding back immediately. Tourists are reporting a roar, a loud bang. We were woken up by a loud bang. The building seemed to slightly shake. We thought, what was that? And because it didn't sound like an explosion, but it did sound very scary. So the National Geographic Institute of Spain has locked it in with a magnitude 5.5, and it has classified it right now as strong. So anywhere between 5.2 and 5.5, the locals even say 5.5, the local or the Spanish institutions. In general in Spain, guys, 40 million people are at risk from earthquakes. Did you know that? Large parts of the Iberian Peninsula are part of a so-called earthquake hot zone for seismic activity because to the increasing proximity of tectonic plates. This has a great impact on local fault lines and the specific characteristic of the land and the geology in this area. We're dealing with the Eurasian plate and the African plate. Basically, we have a constant nudging of the African continent towards Europe. Basically, we could call this a geological kiss. That's the driving force behind these earthquakes in the south of the Iberian Peninsula and that tsunami risk that comes with it. And we've had quite a bit of an unrest there since January in the Granada area. Numbers of tremors. Also other shocks in the southern area of Spain. There are multiple faults that could be the culprits of these tremors. But together, they put 14 million Spanish people at risk. And that is something that history confirms. They have earthquake records over 1,000 years back, and there is a map of high-risk levels, basically around the edges of these continental plates, the East Coast and the Pyrenees. And unfortunately, the Iberian Peninsula is located right there where the Eurasian tectonic plate and the African tectonic plate and the Mid-Atlantic plate form a volcanic mountain range that divides the ocean basically into north and south, and they converge there. The two tectonic plates draw closer to each other by basically 4 to 5 centimeters each year. And I've reported about that area just recently. Check out that video because a new ring of fire could be formed because of that. But not the Pacific Ring of Fire. The Atlantic Ring of Fire sounds crazy, but it is possible. And eventually, the Mediterranean will die. It will dry out. Interesting video, guys. I put that in the end screen for you. The officials try to warn the population that something bigger could happen at any time. They say earthquakes generate fear and uncertainty, which affects day-to-day life on top of the damage that they cause. And he says we have to be aware that they happen every so often. Sometimes they're forgotten for a generation. If nothing happens, people feel that feeling of safety. Tourists probably don't know about it at all. They're lying on the beach. Tsunami? What? In the Mediterranean, underwater volcanoes, especially the people that used to come to Santorini and Greece, the Greek island, they probably didn't know about this. Maybe they do now after all the unrest was happening. And what also is the problem, there's a large part of the population that doesn't remember the past earthquakes because they were simply not alive. Granada suffered a catastrophic earthquake in 1956. And so the scientists say we have to be aware that they will continue to occur and we have to be prepared. We have to make sure our politicians don't forget and that the general public is warned and informed. So I'm informing you guys, if you're planning to go on vacation there, be careful, seek higher ground, tsunami evacuation routes, be aware of that. And if you want to see more, check out the videos in the end screen. Interesting stuff, guys. If you want to support the channel, check the links in the description. I have a Buy Me a Coffee site. I will answer all your messages with a 30-second video message so we can chat with each other because you can message back. And if you want to become a supporting member, click the join button for private stuff behind the scenes videos from me. And thank you for your supers. Thank you for your support. Wherever you go on vacation, guys, if you're not a thrill seeker, be a little bit more careful. For the ones that are watching my channel on a regular base, you know what could happen to you in Iceland, in Switzerland, in Austria and Germany, in Italy, in Norway, where else? In Japan. It's rumbling bad in Japan. Check out the video in the end screen, by the way. Very mysterious earthquake swarm is going on that is causing unprecedented phenomena. So much is going on. In the US, San Diego is at risk of destruction from a fault line that they didn't have in their books. Best is you subscribe and then binge watch all my latest videos. Thanks for being here, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.